Hello there, and welcome to episode 54. I had to look down and check. Episode 54 of Little Big Knits. This is a podcast primarily about knitting. My name is Selma. I'm your host. I'm coming to you from Ottawa, here in Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. And today Yoda is sitting there on the sofa, hello, licking herself, cleaning her chops. She just had breakfast. So it is a morning in late September, and welcome to the podcast today. And what have I got for you today? Well, clearly I've got a lot of knitting to show you. And as promised, I'll be ending the podcast with talking about some of the patterns that have come into my life, and then leaving you with with a parade of patterns at the very end. I can't remember when the last time was that I showed you some of the patterns that have come into my life. So I think there've been quite a few that I have, some that I've been gifted, and then a bunch that I've bought myself. So I'll be ending the podcast with that and leaving you some footage as well at the end regarding patterns. So before we get into the knitting, a couple of things. First of all, we've got the Ranunculus Love Cal, which is going strong, and there is a lot of love for the ranunculus. Lots of people who've made multiple ranunculuses, or is it ranunculi? And then others who've made their first, who have, timidly started and then really enjoyed. A couple of people who haven't enjoyed the process but really like their finished object. So it's been going really, really well. I'll keep it going for a little while longer. And then we've also started, and that one, by the way, has a hashtag on Instagram as well, where I share the photos of people's finished objects. It's the Ranunculus Love Cal. We have another knit along called the LBK Christmas Mal. So this is really everything related to Christmas, and it's going until December 25th. On that day, I will stop the chat, and it's all together. Again, both of these, in the past, I've done knit-alongs or make-alongs where the chatter thread is one and the finished object is another, and it's a bit more formal. These two are a little bit more informal. It's just come on in, join in. It helps you to motivate you in your making kind of thing. And we all get to see all the different things that people are doing. So the LBK Christmas Mal is a mal, so it can include any craft that's related to Christmas, and it can include anything that you are making for yourself, for your home, for others, for charity. It's not restricted. It can be a bauble for the tree. It can be a sweater for yourself. It could be a quilt. It can be absolutely anything. So feel free to come over to the Ravelry group to join in that knit along if you like. And also last time I mentioned about putting notes on the screen, and there were a few of you that said that you watch it on TV and don't have access to the show notes otherwise. So I'll continue putting the notes in here. Do know though that the show notes are also on Ravelry in the Little Big Knits group. So should you ever be watching the podcast, you've got 3 ways to get the information that I've talked about, either here on the screen, below in YouTube where the show notes are, or on Ravelry in the Little Big Knits group. There's always a thread for the most recent podcast, and you can find the show notes in there as well. And a couple of other little notes. Rhinebeck is fast approaching. There are no plans for me to go to Rhinebeck this year. I think just with the continuation of the pandemic and all the restrictions and stuff, it's just not the year to be crossing borders for me. So I'll be staying home. That said, there's actually a fiber frolic that will be going on next weekend. In Van Cleek Hill, which is, how far is Van Cleek Hill? It's about 45 minutes perhaps from Ottawa, in the direction of Montreal, and there will be a fiber frolic there. I don't think I'm going to be able to go to that one either because I'm going to Montreal next weekend to bring some things for my son Yaro, some things that we forgot, like his chair. He's got a chair in his room, but his chair is much more comfortable for studying, so he would like that. And we forgot some other key pieces, not super key pieces. I mean, he's got everything he really, really needs, but just some pieces. And I thought I'll take the opportunity to go to Montreal, see my friends, and spend some time with Yaro and bring him his things. So the way the timing is working, although I could stop in Van Cleek Hill, I don't think it's going to work because I'm going Friday evening, and what's it called? The festival. The festival is on Saturday and Sunday, and I think it goes from like 10 to 4, and I'll be coming back on Saturday in the evening at some point, I suspect. So I don't think I'll have a chance to go, and then Friday I'll have other things going on here. But that's a lovely little festival that is happening locally, and I know that there's some makers on Instagram that have talked about going, one of which is Roots and Rain. So Donna of Roots and Rain Yarns will be there, and yeah, she's got beautiful things. So if you're local and you're itching for something to do, that's a lovely thing to do. Now I don't know if it'll be inside or outside, to be honest, so you may want to look online to see, but yeah, that's happening next weekend. All right, let's get into knitting. I have one finished object for you this time. I'm wearing it. It is my Elorie sweater by Elizabeth Doherty, made out of Quince and Company Kestrel yarn in the Yarrow colorway. I've showed this to you at least twice before, so it is finished. I'm very, very happy with the finished object. However, actually today I have worn it around the house a tiny bit. I have not taken pictures of it as yet, but this is the first day that I'm really wearing it, and I'm noticing that the neckline is a little on the loose side. So I'm kind of thinking I might have to take a crochet hook to the inside just to take it in just a teeny weeny bit. It seems to have stretched out. I made size 4, and I was going to check the gauge because I just checked my gauge again, and I have 16 stitches, and I can't remember if it was 16 or 18 for the pattern, but I think I probably could have gone one size down. I think it's got the ease that they are sort of recommending. Let me see if I can move myself back here and show it to you. It actually has a lovely, lovely drape, and I really quite like it. It's really comfortable. I made it a little longer, I suspect, than in the pattern because it has this lower sleeve and body division down here. I didn't want it to be a little shorter and then constantly be, as I moved around, that it would be going up and then I'd have to wear something underneath. So I decided to make it a little longer, and there we go. I can kind of do this and show it to you, and show you the sweater. I really, really do like it. I like the ease. It's a bit more than I'm used to, but I think it's quite fun actually. And I made the sleeves that length, and I can pull them up if I want to and just wear them like that, or and the details I think show up very, very nicely. The slip stitch pattern is lovely. The only thing I would say is that the neckline is feeling a little on the big side. And it's really, if I'd made this one size smaller, which I think would have been fine as well, and I think I would have been happy with it, it's really only, I think, a 6 stitch difference between the two sizes. So it would have made a tiny difference, but not a huge difference. But anyway, here it is, the Elorie. This was knit on larger needles because this is an Aran weight yarn. And so one would think that it would have been fast, but it really didn't feel terribly fast. Somehow the yoke just went on forever. And I think I was knitting things in between, right? So this ended up taking me longer to knit than usual, but once I finished the yoke, the body was finished in no time, and then the sleeves were finished in no time. So yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy wearing this. I will either take a crochet hook and sort of bring along the inside, bring it in so that it's just a tiny bit cinched in, or I don't know, the other option I think would be to take a thread with a sewing needle and go through and just pull it in just a tiny bit. I think the crochet hook would probably give it a little bit more flexibility. I don't know, if you have an opinion, feel free to comment below. That's not something I've ever done, but yeah. So there we go, a summery yellow Elorie sweater. Now this yarn is a chainette yarn, and we've talked about that I think a couple of episodes ago. And the fabric that it creates is a more opaque fabric, I would say, than applied linen. And I actually find that although we're in late September and the days are cooling down a little bit, this feels like it will actually, I could probably wear this into October. So it's kind of nice that way. I may not wear this sweater on a super, super hot summer day because the fabric is a little bit more, there's a bit of a tighter knit to it than with, you may recall the outline tee that I showed you, I think 2 episodes ago, which was made with applied linen. And that's really, like, that will give no warmth whatsoever. This actually has a tiny bit of warmth to it. So yeah, I think that this will take me into early fall quite nicely, actually. So yeah, so pictures to come on Instagram, none as yet. The pattern itself is very well written. This is my 3rd Elizabeth Doherty pattern. I made a sweater and a cardigan of hers before, and really, she often has very neat, interesting details in her sweater. I found this sweater to be a little finicky. I found there to be details that I was like, why are we doing this? This just doesn't seem necessary. What is this actually bringing to the pattern? So I found this pattern, although extremely well written, I knit it again. I found it a little finicky at times in some of the details. I didn't quite understand the value of them always, but and some of them I followed, and sometimes I modified it slightly. But yeah, I found that for a sweater that is really a simple top-down construction, that in some ways there were some slightly complicated details to it. But a really cool sweater, and I'm very happy with it. So I had hoped during this time as well to finish the bindweed sweater. I had finished it. I found the sleeves to be too long, and the body, and so I had hoped to redo the sleeves and the body on the bindweed in this last 3 weeks since we last spoke. I have actually, and I was going to show you, the bindweed has been housed in this bag, this glorious bag that my friend Elorie of Intuit Knit made for me. When was that? 2 years ago. She came to Ottawa for the Twist Festival here in Quebec. She came to Ottawa and we went together, and she brought me this glorious bag that I've been using a lot, and the bindweed has been in that bag for the last little while. Sorry, I just dropped something. And so what I have done so far with the bindweed is shorten the sleeves, and they look fabulous now. So I have done both sleeves, which I did one weekend when I was at my friend's cottage and I had the time to really focus on this. And I'm in the process of I've pulled back for the body, although I realized that I needed to pull back a little further because the last inches is knit on different size of needles to sort of tighten it a bit. So I have to go back, pull back a little bit, knit this part with the smaller needles, and then do the fold over. And then it'll be ready. So I hope that next time you see me, I will be wearing this. Yeah, I'm so glad I went back and shortened the sleeves. And I also shortened the cuff. I had done a longer cuff, and I decided to just follow the instructions, do a shorter cuff, and I think it lightens the whole thing. The way I had it, well, the sleeves were too long and the cuff was very long, and it made it sort of a heavier looking sweater. And this kind of just makes it, the sleeves being shorter and the cuff being shorter, just make it sort of a much lighter look. I'm going to be so in love with this. I'm really looking forward to wearing this. This was knit out of Knitting for Olive yarn, the merino held together with the silk mohair, both in the purple artichoke color. And the pattern is the bindweed, which was in the most, not the most recent, I think, because I think there's a new one that's come out, but in the last Making Stories. And the pattern is by Xenia Naidion, I believe. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name. And it's just a beautiful pattern. So very, very pretty. I can't wait. So this should get done. But obviously I can wait because I've cast on other things rather than finish this. But I will get to this in the next couple of weeks. I'm pledging to do that. And then I'll be able to show it to you in its full glory next time, because I think it's just going to be the prettiest of pretties. All right, so we clearly have segued into works in progress. So I'll show you 2 new cast-ons that I have. I have to say that I have not really worked on my Linea socks, nor have I worked a whole lot on the Calera shawl that I'm knitting for my sister-in-law. That one I'm working on it very slowly. Maybe in the last 3 weeks I've done, 5 or 6 rows. So I'm not going to bother showing that to you. And the Linea socks I'm going to hold off on because I've got other things that need to start happening. Since we have the Christmas knit along, I've got some socks that I want to make for others, and I've got some other things that I want to also get on the road. So yeah, the Calera shawl will get made as time goes on. It's one that I stick in my purse and take along with me. And then the Linea socks, I may wait until probably January to get back to them, or at least until I've got, the other Christmas knits done. So in this lovely bag that my friend Kate of the Hawthorne Cottage Craft made for me, I just really, really love her bags, honestly. I have started a second Ripple Bralette. You'll recall I made an orange one. I think I showed it to you last episode. And a young lady that I know, when she saw the picture of it on Instagram, she said, "Oh, that's really nice." And I was like, "Wow, do you want one?" She was like, "Okay." So I have cast on a purple Ripple Bralette for her. I've not seen her, so I have to try and get to see her and see that this fits, but I am making the size that she said she was, because I think it's going to work. Her size, there was about a 5 or 6 centimeter leeway, and she fell on the shorter end of it, so I thought it'll probably be fine. And I am making it in this beautiful purple color. This yarn is Sweet Georgia yarn in her mohair silk sock in the Wisteria colorway. And it's really, really a beautiful, beautiful purple. I feel very Eastery with these two on. It's a stunning color. It's very, very soft. Even though it's got the mohair in it, it really has no itch factor whatsoever. When I was picking colors for this particular Ripple, I had actually first wanted to make it for her in this glorious green. This is, oh my gosh, what was this? This was Ancient Arts yarn that I had used for my Yume sweater by Isabel Kramer. Yeah, and I had an extra skein of it, and I thought this would look stunning on her, and it was my first choice. However, this also has mohair in it, but this one, although it feels really soft, I realized I actually went and I knit a swatch, and I thought, it's got too many stray mohair fibers coming out of it, and I think it's got a bit of an itch factor, and I know she's very sensitive. So I decided not to make it in this green. Although when I see her, if she says that, you know, she doesn't think that this would be itchy, then maybe I'll make her a second one, because it was just such a beautiful color for her. But she had, I had shown her a whole bunch of colors, and she had chosen the green and the purple, and then said, you know, you decide. So I would have decided this one. However, because of the fibers, I decided to go to the purple, because although they both have mohair content, the way they're spun, the other one is just so much softer. So this is the Ripple Bralette by Jessie May Designs, my second one making, and it's just such a fun knit. And I know that, you know, it's not going to take very long, and it's just such a great little top. I thought I had made the other one longer, and I did make the other one longer, but I think I'll make this one even a little longer, so that it goes a little bit more down the body. But yeah, so I'm very much enjoying that. Super simple knits, and I really feel like right now I'm just enjoying the super simple knits. So this is all ribbing, and it's just really kind of, once you get into it, you know, it's mindless until you get to the part where you have to do sort of the bralette part. But even that is really quite simple. So it's a great little design, love it. And, you know, could end up making more of them. So yeah, that is my work in progress, my new cast on. And as I said, it's all about simple knits right now, it seems. So in this buku bag that I have, and I didn't actually mean for the project to be in here, but I realized that the project hadn't found a home yet. And so I just stuck it in here for now. But you'll recall last time that I was doing some swatching, and I was swatching with an olive green Topsy yarn that was kind of a chunky weight, as well as an Alley Cat yarn. And so I have cast on with the Alley Cat yarn. This is the yarn here, and this is in her BFL, I believe. It's her Leo sock base, and it's her BFL sock, which is an 80% Blueface Leicester and 20% nylon. So in this glorious color called Harbor, along with this glorious color, also called Harbor, in a mohair silk base. So I have started the Elton Cardigan, and I am utterly smitten with this. And I started it the other night when I finished this finally, and all the ends had been sewn in. I started the Elton Cardigan, which right now really doesn't look like a whole lot. There's a tiny little bit of neck shaping here, which you can't see because it's rolling down. And there's a little bit of short row shaping, and then you really get into just the striping of the mohair and the other yarn. And this is a drop shoulder cardigan, so the shoulders will come somewhere down here as well. It'll end up having kind of like this. The shoulders will come to here, and then there'll be sort of shorter sleeves. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this. So far, the pattern is very well written. It's really a very simple pattern. I'm so loving these yarns and really looking forward to this. I keep putting it on because I'm like, is this like ridiculously long? But once it's actually on the shoulders, the size is just fine. Like, it doesn't actually come that far down. But when I look at it, just like, oh, this just seems like it's so wide. But I think it'll be just fine. I did struggle with this to try and figure out which size I should make. But my tension is my gauge rather is slightly tighter than the pattern. So I decided to make the size that would be recommended for me, knowing that the gauge would be slightly tighter. And because, you know, it's the neck of this is interesting because it's actually, so there's the sort of the neck shaping. It's going to be a very closed neck. So I think that will help to also sort of bring the whole thing in. And I suspect that this will be a cardigan that actually stays on really nicely because it's got a close neck and it's a bit of a crew neck here. So it'll stay on really nicely. I find sometimes with the drop shoulder thing, and especially in an open cardigan, this one's not an open, it actually has buttons, but the cardigans can end up sliding off a lot. I'm expecting this one to stay on really nicely. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about this at this point, except that I'm quite in love. I'm really enjoying my two cast-ons right now, the Elton and the Ripple Bralette. I just find them both, well, they're competing for attention a little bit because they're just so lovely. They're both really lovely yarns. They're both really simple knits and really enjoyable. So yeah, I think it's all about the simple knits right now. So that's really what I've been working on. I also wanted to tell you guys about a coupon code that I forgot to mention at the beginning and I don't want to forget. The lovely Sue of the Tangle Skeins CA shop. You've seen her bags because my Calora is in one of her bags, which is not here right now. And she had gifted me this little sort of sock sack type of thing. It's almost like a basket because you can put your yarn in here and work on it and then close it up and transport your sock project with you. So she has reopened her shop. Sue used to have a shop years ago. She shut it down for a while and she has got her sewing mojo back. So she's opened a shop and selling lovely bags in her shop. And she has given us a coupon code. So from September 27th until October 11th, she's given us a 15% discount code that you can use in her shop. And the discount code is LBK Knits. Or no, I should say LB Knits. So it's sort of like LBKNITS 15, and it'll be right here on the down bar. So go and check out her shop if you're interested in one of her bags. I will link her shop down below so that you can get there really quickly. But it is the Tangled Skein CA on Etsy. So thank you so much for that coupon code, Sue. And yeah, I really love all your bags that you've made for me over the years. Last time I also showed you guys some of the swatching I was doing. So I was swatching with the Alley Cat yarn. I was swatching with the Topsy Farms yarn. And then I was also swatching with the Nutiden yarn. It's not in a very fancy space. It's here in a Ziploc bag. So I was swatching with this and I showed you guys two different mohairs that I had used to swatch with this that gave very different browns. One was reddish brown and one was a more taupey brown. And I asked you, what do you think? And I have to say, I would say you were pretty close to 50-50 on the two browns, which was quite interesting. And I'm also torn on the two browns. Some people were unequivocally saying, oh yes, the reddish brown, and others it was like, nope, the other brown. I think I like the other brown, the sort of more taupey brown, but I still wasn't convinced. And so I decided to swatch with a third brown. Now, clearly I'm not about to cast on anything with this Nutiden because I simply cannot seem to make a decision. But I decided to cast on with this brown here, which is a very chocolatey kind of brown. It's got a bit of a plumminess to this, and it's a Knitting for Olive brown that's, was it plum clay? Plum brown? I don't have the tag with me, I don't think, do I? Or is this it? Yeah, plum clay. So this is the plum clay, and I had actually bought this for another yarn that I have in my stash to make something with it. But then when I really couldn't decide on these other browns, I thought, let me swatch with it and see what happens. So I currently have now 3 different browns on here. And Selma still can't decide. I do think though that I do think that I'm going for the center one. I think I've decided that this one's not it, but I do quite like the chocolatiness of this one, but I just can't decide. So I'm just going to sit on this for a while. Eventually it'll speak to me. I think at this point I've probably looked at this too much and I simply can't decide. But I do think I've probably eliminated the reddish brown, and it'll be one of these two, which are actually quite similar. This one's just a little bit more chocolatey in nature, and this one's a bit more taupey, I would say. So that's a little bit more of some of the needle clicking that I've done this last month, and pondering really, because it's so bizarre how I'm having a hard time finding the right combination for that. But that's really all the knitting that I have been doing in the last 3 weeks. It's been busy because getting my son ready for school and then him there, and somehow now I'd say that life is getting into a little bit more of a routine now that everybody's back at school and things, life has sort of resumed the scholastic year routine. I'm finding I'm having more time to sit down and knit in the evenings, which is nice because it felt over at the summer that there was a lot of movement, there was just busyness, there was getting things ready. So I'm hoping to have more time to knit. So let's talk a little bit about patterns. And what I'm going to do is post the patterns here, the ones that I talk about today, and then I will, the rest of them I'll put on at the end. So that was extremely annoying because I just recorded a whole segment about the patterns and the books I've been reading and what I've been watching, and it disappeared. So I'm back and I'll be repeating that for you. So on to patterns, but first, let me take a sip of tea in this glorious mug that my friend Amelia gave me a couple of years ago, and it comes out every year this fall. I cannot remember who the potter is, so I'll be putting it down here so that if you want to look her up, you're welcome to. I believe she's somewhere in the northeast states, Vermont, Maine, somewhere around there, and she makes these stunning pumpkin mugs. So every fall the pumpkin mug comes out. So let's talk about patterns. So the first pattern I wanted to bring up was the Color Swap Cardigan by Tanya Seaman. Tanya very kindly gifted this to me, and also gifted one for our Color Play Cal prizes, which I have posted in the Ravelry group. I did not do a video this time. I just could not seem to get myself organized. So what I decided to do was have a prize thread in Ravelry, and I tagged the people who had won. I did random number generator, and Tanya had very kindly gifted a copy of this pattern, and so somebody very luckily won that copy. So this is a lovely yoke design for a cardigan where there's a bit of swapping out of colors, so yeah, it's a great design, and thank you very much, Tanya, for that. The next one I wanted to bring up was a Kala by Megan Nodecker, which was given to me by my friend Sue for my birthday. Thank you very much. And this is a lovely pattern that I've actually been looking at for a long time, so I was quite pleased to receive this, and have also been thinking about which yarns. It will require for me probably about 2 skeins of yarn, so I've been sort of looking through. I don't think it'll get knit for this year, but perhaps for next summer, because I think it'll be a lovely top for the summer to wear with skirt or pants. So yeah, very, very lovely. The next one was the Wild Wool Trail Socks. This is by Jen Joyce Designs, and thank you very much, Petra, for this gift. And it's funny because I have been contemplating doing some more hiking and longer hiking, and possibly like really long hiking. Although, well, I'm gonna have to work up to that because I'm not in shape to do that right now. But I'm starting to do longer walks on the weekends, or like sort of 10K walks, and hoping to build that up with some goals, and then eventually maybe doing a long walk. So the Wild Wool Trail Socks are a perfect pattern for me to have at this point. And so I'm thinking about knitting those with some good rustic yarns and seeing what they're like to wear as I hike around. So thank you very much for that. The next one, I think I may have showed it to you. This is a design, the Potluck Pullover by Victoria Zakanovic. And she gifted this to me, and I feel like it was a while ago, and I don't know if I showed it to you, but I really didn't want it to go unnoticed. It's a lovely raglan sleeve cardigan that you can use multiple yarns with. So you can, it's sort of like a bit of a stash busting cardigan. It's a great idea. And you could also just make it plain or with, a stripe pattern that you've sort of decided on as well. But it was designed to, sort of be a potluck pullover in a sense. And it's, did I say it was a cardigan? No, it was a pullover. And it's just a really good classic raglan design that can be used for a variety of things. So thank you very much for that as well. The next thing was something I won in the Grocery Girls Ravelry group. And this is a lovely pattern collection by Patricia of Knitography, and it's the Knitography Selbu Socks collection. And oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's just stunning. I just wish I weren't completely intimidated by knitting small circumference colorwork stuff. The little bit of small circumference that I've done, which was really the sleeves on a sweater, I really didn't enjoy. So I think I need to figure out how to enjoy small circumference knitting a little bit more. And then I'd love to take on one of these patterns because they really are very, very beautiful. Patricia is an American, but living in Norway and really celebrating Norwegian traditions in her pattern making as well. She also has a farm and makes yarn. So do check Patricia out. She's P4 Chen on Instagram, and Knitography, you can find her online as well. And I also was gifted the pattern by Andrea Mowry, Stripes, ! This may be one that I've also showed it to you. I know I mentioned it on the podcast. I think I did. Anyway, and that was also gifted to me, and very kindly. Thank you so much. And I'm planning still on making this as an Advent knit. And yes, I think I showed it to you when it was gifted to me, because I think it was gifted to me like last February or something. So I'm hoping to knit this as an Advent knit, making one stripe every day. And I've been collecting yarns, and now I'm starting to like put them together to see, and I'm thinking they're all leftover skeins from different projects, socks or sweaters, all fingering weight. Although I think the pattern is for sport weight, I'm going to make it in fingering weight and adjust the size accordingly. So those are patterns that have been gifted to me in recent times. What I'm going to do is post the rest of the patterns that I've purchased over recent times at the end of the podcast. So if you stay on to the end or skip to the end if you're not interested in the non-knitting talk, which is coming up, you can see the rest of them there. There is such an abundance of beauty in our community. I just, so much beauty in the yarns that people are creating and the patterns that people are designing, and the combinations that people put together and the modifications that people make. It's just glorious. So many gorgeous patterns that I have purchased recently, and I'll put them at the end for you. I'll just spend the last few minutes of the podcast telling you about two books, one that I finished and one that I'm reading, as well as a couple of things that I've watched on screens. In terms of books, I finished the book Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabshigig Rice. Both the books, by the way, were audiobooks that I'm going to talk about today. Pretty much they always are for me. So this was a first novel by Wabshigig Rice. He is a journalist with CBC and took time off to write this book. So it's his first novel, and it is about an Indigenous community in Ontario somewhere, and about sort of all the resources, not all the resources, but there's been like a huge power outage, and they no longer have electricity, internet, running water, I believe. And so the community is trying to deal with this, and then a stranger comes into the community that sort of causes issues in the community. And so it's a little bit of a slightly dystopian type of novel in a way. It's a great story. It was told in an unusual way. It was very understated. Considering the dramatic stuff that happens in the book, I would say that it was kind of an understated book. While I was listening to it, I wasn't 100% sure what I thought of it, but in the end, it made me think a lot about storytelling and how stories are told. We're very used to stories being told in very dramatic ways, especially visually. Our movies are very visually big, I would say. Some might say aggressive. Like this, we're really bombarded these days with big, intense stories. And while this story has a lot of intensity to it, it's much quieter than other books that or stories that I feel like I've heard or watched these days. And so I was a little shocked by that at first, but I really liked it in the end. The second book, the one that I'm listening to at the moment, is called Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. I cannot remember the name of the author right now, so I'll put it down here. This was a book that was recommended by a couple of viewers, so thank you very much for that. And this is a book that takes place in Kentucky, and in the 1930s. It is about a young woman who is one of the last people, the blue people of Kentucky, I believe they're called. And so she has a blue tinge to her skin. I think Jojo Moyes also wrote a book about the blue people of Kentucky, although apparently this book came out first. I'm enjoying it very much. I'm a couple of hours into it so far. Very engaging from the get-go. Very good narration. And so yeah, that's what I'm reading at the moment. I can't say more about it, but I am enjoying it so far. In terms of screen time, really loved The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. Completely binged the first season of that. Stayed up too late watching it. Could not stop watching it. Very, very compelling. Really well done. First season. Second season has just started. This is on Apple TV. And so I've only been able to watch the first 2 episodes because it's coming out weekly. I'm just not used to that anymore. I'm used to watching things when I want to. And then I went to see a movie, actually went to the movies and saw Roadrunner, which is a documentary about Anthony Bourdain, the celebrity chef that died in 2018. And it was a really well done documentary, I have to say. Really enjoyed it a lot. I think it was a good documentary to see on a big screen because he traveled around the world, so there's a lot of footage from all over the place. But it's also, I think, worth seeing on a small screen. And it was a very well done, put together. When documentaries are well done, they're just so enjoyable. So that was great and very much enjoyed it. So that's what I've been listening to, reading, so to speak, as well as watching in the last little while. We're at the end of September. September has really just flown by. As I said, Labor Day weekend, I took my son to Montreal. We packed him up and the car was full and moved him into residence. He is as happy as can be, living there, living his own life. School's going fine. Most of his courses are online this term. He's got 1 class on campus. So I'm glad that he's in residence and able to meet people and be with other people, because I think otherwise it would be kind of miserable. So far, everything is going along. Some things are not, like I think the gym is not open and things like that, but other activities have resumed, and so far, so good as far as all the COVID stuff is going. But he's as happy as can be. And life has resumed here. The following weekend after Labor Day, I went to my friend's cottage and we had a lovely, lovely time. The last swims of the season, and swam every day and had a bonfire and just relaxed and knit and read, and it was glorious. And since then, I've just been getting back into a bit of a routine. School has resumed for Isla, and I'm kind of enjoying getting back into a bit of a routine. Summer is wonderful, but summer is kind of this explosion of activity. And so I'm kind of enjoying the idea that the weather's getting a bit cooler, that we're in a bit of a routine, and just going to enjoy the quiet evenings of knitting and watching and something and walking, doing longer hikes on the weekends, as I mentioned earlier. So tomorrow I'm going to be going on a 10-kilometer walk with a friend and hoping to do longer walks every weekend. Last weekend I also did a 10K walk, just trying to build up. I have to say I'm finding them tiring at this point. Not so much for me, but my legs. They're part of me, but so just hoping to build up and get into longer and longer walks. I've done a lot of walking this last year, but usually in shorter spurts. So now just trying to get more into hiking, because it's just so beautiful to be out in the forest. So that's kind of what's going on around here. I feel like I always forget things, but that's okay. So I'll leave you there, friends. I hope that this podcast has found you well. I hope you've enjoyed a bit of crafting time or not, and just enjoyed spending some time together. I'll see you next time. Stay well until then, and happy fall or happy spring, depending on where you are. Take care. Bye-bye.
All the stars have come in close just to see you, I suppose, and they're a-gleaming. You must be dreaming, and the sun has said goodbye with a twinkle in his eye. He's left the ocean with sweet emotion. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly. And the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town, and he's so lonely. I love you only. I love you only. All the birds have taken flight. It's their favorite time of night, when they can hear you from somewhere near you. And the palm trees try to bend to be closer to their friends. They're made of magic. Reach out then grab it. We go dancing in the rain, riding on a midnight train, away so slowly. And the moon is looking down on the sleepy side of town, and he's so